Daughters are so special that when a male marries a female, he is reminded constantly that who you have married is the special child of someone, dear to someone. So we tell the husbands that when you look at your wife, don't just look at her as your wife. That's not the only title she has. She had a title before that which was more dear and more valuable. What was it? She is the daughter of so-and-so. She also has her own family that loves her and respects her. So do not disrespect her. Do not abuse her. Like they say, don't make her cry. You know, when my wife cries, I always tell her I'm not supposed to allow you to cry. She says, I cry out of joy. MashaAllah. Okay, that's good. That's a good sign. So if you're crying out of joy and happiness, alhamdulillah. But if you're crying out of, sadness, you're stuck, there's no way forward, wallahi, Allah has heard the cry of a wife and a daughter. If you take a look at Surah Al-Mujadalah, named after a woman who came through in order to present her case to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the husband became disinterested in her. Listen to this, and inshallah I will end on this note. I tell you, very interestingly, there was a woman known as Khawla binti Tha'laba radiyallahu anha. So what happened to her is, she was married, and mashallah, a pretty beautiful woman, next thing expecting, she has a child, and when you have a child, what happens? Subhanallah, people forget that you've now born children, you've graduated into a new level of, motherhood now, and so on. You will not be the same girl you used to be 20 years back. Things have to change. Perhaps you may change in so many ways. You become wiser. And perhaps you may even become a little bit heavier. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us ease. She complained because her husband started losing interest or showed disinterest. He was not interested. And he started saying whenever she was trying to get his attention, he would say, you're just like my mother, man. It's okay. You're just like a mother. You're just like my sister, and so on. She went to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam crying, weeping, complaining, what do I do? This man is saying this to me. He refuses to touch me, and at the same time, he is the one who impregnated me. He gave me the children. He is the one who did this. When I married him, I was in tip-top shape, and so on. My mothers and sisters, I just want to pause for a moment to tell you that does not mean that when you have given birth, you should just lose yourself. No. Go back. You will be able to retain a lot if you work on it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. Whether they are sit-ups, leg-ups, whatever you want to call them, they work. Trust me, they actually work. Dedicatedly. So don't use a hadith in order for you to throw yourself, to the side. No. Work on it. You will feel good by the will of Allah. Like I said, do it for the right reasons. Going back to this narration. So, as she's complaining, do you know what happened? The Prophet ﷺ, obviously it's a difficult situation. What do you say? You need to convince the man. Verses were revealed. قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا وَتَشْتَكِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Indeed, Allah has heard the argument of the woman who has come to you complaining to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has heard it. And then He gives the response, and it's a long set of verses where Allah speaks of the punishment of those who say those type of statements and how special and important the woman is. You don't just say these words. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to make the correct decisions in life.
Brother, today we see that unfortunately many marriages fail. Even in Muslims and non-Muslims, it's quite common. In Muslims, we see that the ignorant people, those who are not practicing, we can understand. They don't have knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. But some cases we also come across wherein the practicing Muslim, the husband and wife, both are the practicing Muslim, yet they have problems in their life. So what would be your tips and tricks to save such problems and make it sure that the marriage life is happy and smoothly going ahead?
Brother, the question that nowadays we find that marriage is unsuccessful We can understand in the ignorant people, but even in educated Muslims, even those who are practicing Muslims, they are not successful. So what are my tips? Point number one. If a marriage is not successful, it does not mean that the people are un-Islamic. Point number one. Marriage is not successful, immediate divorce. But natural, after all the pros and cons, I'm just giving a short answer. Because if you read the history of the Sahabas, many of the Sahabas and Sahabiyas, they divorced. Both were pious Muslims and Muslimah. So don't think that divorce is a stigma. Islam removes the stigma by saying, Islam is one of the few religions which says, if the marriage cannot be compatible, divorce, part. But it doesn't mean both may be Islamic, but yet they may not be compatible. Both may be Islamic, but may not be compatible. That does not mean if marriage is not successful, they are not good Muslims. That's a different question. I say, if one of the two is understanding, it will be successful. But sometimes they may not be compatible. Both may be Islamic, both may be Quran Hadith, but yet they may not be compatible. I'm not saying that divorce was very common, but divorces were there. Not that every second one got divorced, so please don't get wrong information. But there were divorces taking place. What we realized that the Sahaba, the female companion and the male companion, they were both Islamic, but if 2 points didn't meet, they parted. He married someone else, she married someone else, no problem. So Islam is one of the few religions in the world which says divorce is possible and remarry. Though divorce is among the things which is the last resort. So point number one, not successful doesn't mean not Islamic. But, yet I say, not successful also means not Islamic. Why? Because most of the unsuccessful marriages because of lack of deen. This example I'm giving one extreme. That Sahaba had knowledge, they were not compatible. Today, what I say, that if one of the two is Islamic and compassionate, divorce will not take, under normal circumstances. The marriage will be successful. If one of the two spouses is Islamic and is compromising, has sabr, marriage will be successful. There are stray cases where they may not be compatible, leave that aside. But generally the problem we have today is because of lack of Islamic knowledge. The problem we have because of lack of sabr. The problem is everyone thinks that he's right. And please take it, I don't know what has been told, please realize everything is not black and white. Most of the times, the husband thinks he is right and the wife is wrong. And the wife thinks the wife is right, husband is wrong. You ask me who's right? I said both are right and both are wrong. It keeps on changing. Both can be right, both can be wrong. You ask anyone who are divorced. Two divorces, are wife achhi nahi thi. You ask the woman, are husband acha nahi tha. You'll never find an answer that I was not good. You interview 1,000 people, you may not find one also who will say that I was wrong. For all the divorces, everyone blames the other person. If you do introspection, what you have to do in married life, if suppose I was in the situation of my wife, and the wife behaved the way I'm behaving with her, aisi baat hai. You put yourself in her shoes. Her shoes means don't wear a shoe directly. Then you said haram to wear female clothes and all. No? That means you put her in your situation. And if she does the same, like about, naraz ho gaye, you see your situation. If someone forces you, what will happen? So if you do this, inshallah, majority of the problem will be solved. And counseling is very important. With simple counseling. People put hadith leke aate. Hadith sahi hai, mashallah. But they don't quote the other hadith. They quote one hadith, not the other hadith. So what we realize, that the marriage is not successful because they don't know how compromising was the Prophet. How compromising were the wives of the Prophet. Yet, there is a verse in the Quran, if you know in Surah Azab chapter 33, that when the wives were demanding too much, Allah reveals verses in the Quran in Surah Azab chapter 33, that if you want luxury of this world, we will free you immediately. Imagine Ummuhatul Mu'mineen. Ummuhatul Mu'mineen means they are the mothers of the believers, the best of the examples, right? For them, there is a warning coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who did the trouble? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the best example. The best example woman, troubling the best example man. It's common, human. Verse of the Quran is revealed that if you want freedom, I will relieve you immediately. Talking about divorce, though the Prophet didn't divorce any of the wives, mashallah. Ummatul Mu'mineen. They're the best example. But husband, wife. It's bound to be there. Bound to be a little complaint. Don't think that none of the wives complained to the Prophet, and not that the Prophet did not. They're human beings. But be compassionate. And immediately they realize their mistake, and they ask for forgiveness. And Allah forgives them. So many cases. If you read Surah Tahrim, how did the wives, one wife got jealous, other wife? How did the Prophet took an oath, I will not touch honey? The verse was revealed, how can you make haram what is halal for you? So that means that gives the example. You are talking about other relationship, this is a relationship. अरे कैसी मुझे बीवी मिली? अरे कैसी मिली? अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अच्छी मिली भाई. मुझे ऐसी मिली. Then you curse Allah, then you're telling, you're complaining to Allah. So what you have to realize, that see the background and put yourself in her situation. She should put her in your situation. And that's how the life would be, mashallah, very smooth. There should be compatibility, and understanding each other very important. Hope that answers the question.